Good evening, everybody. We're finally back on the air for another edition of Reasonable Doubt, brought to you by the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. I'm your host, Jimmy Ardwan, and he made it through, ladies and gentlemen. Back with me, Julio Avila. What's going on, JV?
Very good.
You look tired. It's been a long month.
Oh, man. Long month.
We've had a few things happen.
Hurricanes, Texans, jail dockets, switching courthouses. I'll tell you, though, it's a relief to be back somewhat normal with you, my good friends, great lawyers, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're going to be with you for the next hour, ladies and gentlemen. We have a lot to discuss. Obviously, on behalf of the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, we know a lot of people were affected by Hurricane Harvey over the last 3 weeks, including our entire legal system here in the county has been totally uprooted. But aside from all the pain we may be going through on a professional level and the adjustments, which we're going to talk about tonight, we want to extend our, and I don't want to say thoughts and prayers because that is just a terrible phrase that is so overused in this society. But, you know, we want you to know that we're thinking about every one of you and everybody who's been through it. A lot of us have been out volunteering, doing what we can, donating. I know I took my family down to the George R. Brown to donate pillows and blankets and toys and everything else that those who were displaced from their homes, that they needed, that they didn't have. And I know a lot of lawyers were doing that. I was helping friends tear down sheetrock. I know a lot of other lawyers were doing that as well and doing a lot more. A lot of people got out with their own vehicles, were rescuing people with boats. It shows just the type of community that we have, and I, for one, am proud to live here because of the show of that force. And, you know, it's a situation where, for me, we didn't wait around for the government to come and act. We acted on our own. We stepped up to help our fellow citizens, and that's what I'm most proud about. And we've seen that in the legal profession. There's been a lot going on here where other lawyers are stepping up to help other lawyers, providing office space, help covering cases, anything we can do. And I think it goes for everybody who's here tonight, and I'll introduce the panel in a little bit here, but we're all here to help. I was one of the fortunate ones, I know Julio you were as well, to not have suffered any flooding whatsoever. And so, but for the grace of God goes me kind of thing, I could easily be in a position of having to evacuate my family and uproot everything. So, like I said, we're going to be with you for the next hour. If you've got a story to tell, call in and tell us. We're mostly going to focus on what's happened in the criminal justice system tonight. So if you or a family member had jury duty or were set for a case, couldn't get to court, couldn't figure out everything, call and tell us your stories. We'd like to know it. Likewise, if you're a judge, if you're an elected official and you're watching us tonight by some stretch of the imagination, call in. If there's anything on here that you disagree with us on, if there's anything that you want to clarify on, call in. Let us know. If you want to come on the show and talk to us, because this is a situation, frankly, it's not going to go away anytime soon. We're probably going to have this craziness for the next year at least. So if you want to get on the show, contact us. You got the number right there on the bottom of the screen, 713-807-1794 is the number. I have Twitter up at HCCLA_TV. You can send us your question and comments. You can call our producer. Get scheduled on the show. We'd love to hear what the plan is long term. But let me bring in my panel right now. We brought back. Now we're back. We bring back former hosts.
Now we're back.
Damon Parrish.
Damon Despacio Parrish.
That's right.
That's who I am. I think also if you're bored with the Texans-Bengals game, watch us. Have a good time because that game's going to suck.
Are we up?
The Texans are playing. Won't be up. We'll be playing.
I think they're tied 0-0.
Hey, so we're not losing. That's a win. That's a W in my book.
Seated to his right, Andreea Ionescu. First time on the show.
Yes, first time.
Glad you could join us.
Very excited to be here.
Well, don't get too excited, okay?
I'm excited.
You got a long.
She's a first-time viewer, long-time watcher.
I'll try to.
First-time viewer, long-term watcher, right?
Correct.
That's what it is.
That makes no sense, Damon.
First-time viewer, long-time watcher.
I love it.
A viewer and a watcher are the same things, though.
No. See, a viewer is like casual, but a watcher's in it.
Right.
Okay.
Like she's in it to win it.
And then our last panel member, he is now known for his, how should I say this? Your observations of horse defecation outside the courthouse. Nick Hughes. You should have started a Facebook page, a separate Facebook page for that. Maybe even an Instagram page.
You know, at the time, it was
This was
just
pre-hurricane too.
well, but I guess you have to take it in context of it. Is people were having peaceful protests outside of the courthouse. They were bringing in an overwhelming response, and part of that response was police horses, and they left behind the manure and they didn't clean it up, and it was just disgusting. And it was something you'd have to walk by every day as you went to the courthouse. And I just grew sick of it, and I wanted to document the inaction and and then I became a little more surreal with it as time progressed. And now there's a possum out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went from Manure Gate to Murray Newman's Taco Gate.
I'm not familiar with
Taco
Taco Gate.
Somebody left a taco apparently in the stairwell, which I'm assuming got washed away in the
And it was
floods.
Murray Newman? How do we know it was Murray Newman's taco?
He documented
No,
it.
it just left in the stairwell, and he chronicled it much like Nick.
Oh,
chronicled
gotcha,
the horse
gotcha.
manure. But all right, guys. So we have the first week here. Of course, when Harvey blew through, we had a massive amount of flooding, and I mean, it wasn't a great shock to me. I don't know how it could have come as a great shock to anybody else. Our lovely Harris County Criminal Justice Center at 1201 Franklin flooded again, as it did back in 2001 with Tropical Storm Allison. They added some storm doors, and that was all well and good until the water went over the storm doors and then came up from the bottom and apparently flooded from the bottom up. And then, as I understand it, jacked with the electricity system, the air conditioning system then exploded. There was some other stuff coming from the bottom up that we won't really go into.
I will.
But
So
it really
the
created...
pipes busted in the DA's office, the first like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 floors. And so they had irrigation system from the sewage from the
Yeah.
toilets coming up, how poetic. And then they had the sprinkler system go off as well, and water fountains. So their office got decimated with water. And I'm not understanding how the flood caused the pipes to break, but it did.
Pressure.
Yeah.
All right, so pressure, ladies and gentlemen. It was under pressure.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other big shock that I'm not shocked by, but apparently everybody else was that our jury assembly center flooded.
You mean the building underground?
Yeah, the building underground, and it flooded from street level.
No. The storm drains worked.
Right. The storm doors worked,
Right.
and then it flooded from the top. So now we've got no criminal courthouse. We've got no jury assembly building. And the DA's office has been displaced. Your office, Nick and Damon, you guys have been, where are you guys officing?
Currently in my car. So
Seriously?
So we don't have an office, so I have all my files in my house in my car, and I just kind of drive back and forth, and I keep my files there, and when I need one, I pull one out, and I don't, I put it back in the house, and I've been working from home since the hurricane, actually.
See?
Since the
Same for
hurricane,
you.
I got all my
Well,
files.
a little different for me. I mean, the county has been really gracious with us, and they've let us basically volunteer however we saw fit within Harris County. And and sort of like Damon, for a lot of the time, I was going around and doing a lot of demolition work, helping people who were affected by the storm. But beyond that, I have set up a little office in my house. But I don't know. I feel the urge to just get back out there because it's just too massive and it's just too crazy what's going on.
I think you should make Scott Pope drive you guys around and become like the PDO's version of the
Pope-mobile.
Lincoln lawyer.
In the Pope Mobile?
Yeah.
In the Pope Mobile? We can't do that.
It might be a good time to show that you all can do your job out of the office.
Oh, we definitely can. I mean, I do a lot of work from home anyways,
and that-
but
no,
not
but
not to this degree. This
So-
is unusual.
Well, so the interesting thing about this, of course, all the courts now have been forced elsewhere. The misdemeanor courts have been placed into the old asbestos-laden family court center. If I ever have to go in there, I'm going to get a
I'm
dust
coughing
mask.
a lot.
Yeah, and the district courts have now been combined with the civil district courts and the family law district courts into the civil courthouse at 201 Caroline, except for 2 of the district courts, which are now going over to the Juvenile Justice Center, which hasn't opened, so they're not open yet. What a mess.
It is a mess, but at least I guess something's happening. I don't know. I don't know how it wasn't anticipated that this building might flood again. And I don't think the pressure system could have been anticipated. I would give credit there. I think that's kind of a surprise. But things are happening, and I agree with Nick. We spent a good amount of time outside of work working for the community.
Yeah.
We spent, Nick and I for sure were out demoing houses. I was out at George R. Brown. So not all my work has been case prepping, and but I had trial set, which are now in limbo. I have no idea when they're going to go. I was still trial prepping in hopes that they might happen. They probably won't happen anytime soon. But we did do work, you know what I mean? So work was still being done, just not in the traditional sense.
Andrea, you're in private practice. How has your practice been affected?
Everything's been slow. We started back on Monday. Courts were closed, so we're adjusting to this new schedule. The jail dockets being in one building, the bond dockets in one building, morning dockets, afternoon dockets. I don't know about you guys, but you never know where you have to go until the day of. The dockets change all the time, so we're adjusting. It's interesting, but my office is fine. It's just like Damon being out trying to help everybody. My house didn't flood, thankfully, so I have a house full of people that have been evacuated from their homes, but just trying to help as much as we can.
What do we know about jury trials?
What I can tell you, the first one I've seen reset was a case that I'm involved in, and that's set off until November. And I don't know if that's a realistic goal.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, when you look at the sheer number of courts that are all competing for the same space, I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Well, and the other thing I don't know how it's going to happen is, okay, so the jury assembly room's kaput, at least for the next year. They've moved it back over to the old jury assembly room, I understand, but it's a much smaller space now because I think they've built part of that into offices.
Right, or just tore it down.
Yeah, or tore it down.
Or just
so one, you're going to have less juries. I mean, one of the civil judges told me he reasonably doesn't expect that a civil jury trial in Harris County will take place until next summer at the earliest.
Wow.
Well, yeah, because criminal courts have priority.
I was going to ask why.
Because criminal courts have priority.
Especially the jail case.
So a district criminal court jail case has top priority. It must go before any other type of case there is. So if you have an old criminal case that is a felony in a district court and is in jail, you have priority, and everybody else falls second.
Well, but answer me this, guys. I mean, there are thousands of homes that have been destroyed. People are not living in them. I mean, I heard some report like maybe 85,000 homes in the Houston area.
I've heard more than that. I heard it was closer to 120, 125.
Okay, absolutely. So let's do the math there. How are these people going to get their jury summons? Some of these people can't get back into their homes because parts of the west side are still underwater.
Right.
They're living elsewhere. Maybe they have their mail forwarded. Maybe they occasionally go back. But if they go back, when you've got a pile of mattresses and carpet and sheetrock sitting out in your yard with your, I love the people who were creative and put yard of the month or pile of the month.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, people making humor out of a bad situation. But if that's what you're going to go back and check your mail, and you get a letter from Chris Daniel saying come down for jury service, I got a good picture of what they're going to do with that.
And let's add to that. I don't think most people were planning on having a 2-week vacation in the middle of September.
Exactly.
August, September. That caught everybody off guard. So you have people without a home who may not get mail service because I'm not for sure if mail can be delivered to some of those places, and have to catch up on 2 weeks of missed work. I don't think we'll have jury service for a good while. And I don't think we should. And that's unfortunate for some of my clients who I think need a trial, and I was looking forward to having their trial. I don't think it's possible. We have a space issue, we have a jury service issue, we have a summons issue, and if you get a summons and don't show up, what's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
Well, nothing.
No.
So, I don't think we'll have a trial anytime soon.
Right, because so many people, even if they get those summons, their priority is not showing up for jury duty.
Right.
Their priority is to get their lives back together and their houses built up. They're not going to come.
And frankly, if I'm, and we've got some of the pictures rolling of the damage to the jury assembly room and some of the other stuff that we've seen posted on various people's Facebook sites. This probably comes from Chris Daniel's site. He posted a lot of the damage. But, honestly, though, if I'm the lawyer trying a case, particularly a criminal case, and it's a serious criminal case, I don't know that I want to be trying that case in the next 3 months. I'm not sure how fair of a jury pool I'm going to get, I mean, if you're trying a robbery case, and we've had coverage of looters and everything else, how are you really going to get a fair trial?
I think it would depend on the case. I mean, obviously, if it's a very serious case, it's probably not the time to do it. But I think on the other side of that coin, you're going to have a lot of non-serious cases where people are like,
True.
Are you
They've
serious?
seen
We're
what
gonna
they've
try
seen.
this
Yeah.
case?
Right. They just
Yeah.
can't believe that this is happening, and that especially if let's say that they were flooded and they have to go through all the things that somebody who's flooded has to go through, and they're in some part of that process,
Right.
and they get this summons and they're obedient and they show up and it's over some license invalid kind of stuff. Are they going to be happy to be there? Or if it's over a speeding ticket, are they going to be happy to be there?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Well, the municipal courts, I think, are just now opening up. They're set to open maybe
Probably.
next week.
I mean, I think we have to prioritize it. I think now is a great time as any to have bond. Let's discuss bond again. And if you were set for trial now, right, and like Nick said, you're one of the more not serious cases, and you're in jail, we need to revisit bond. And it's not just now for you, the particular defendant charged with a crime, to get out of jail. It's not for the community at large. I mean, there's certain business as priority right now. Jury trials are important, but getting people back to the normal way of life, I think is more important.
But don't you also view this as an opportunity, guys, for us to make the system more efficient? Because everybody is crammed in such close quarters right now. We have to do something to make it more efficient, because we're now processing all these people, all these cases in a much more confined area. You've got judges sharing courtrooms. Realistically, I don't know where you would try these cases, because all the courtrooms are doubled up right now anyway.
Or tripled up.
Or tripled up. So, I mean, it really begs now that we need to get creative with how we do resets, if we even need resets. I mean, should we be looking to more of a docket control order type situation where we're not having this mass crush of humanity coming downtown every day just to go upstairs for 30 minutes or an hour and a half to sign a piece of paper and walk back out the door and go, what the hell was that all about? I mean, it's an inefficient system, and I feel like now is the opportunity to try and work some of this out and build efficiency back into this system.
Well, what we've been doing is getting 60 days and 90 days resets, especially for new cases, because we have to get all discovery together, which with felony courts, we don't even know where we're going to get that from, because they don't have an office. They don't know when they're going to have an office. So I've been asking around where to pick up discovery from, and the answer I'm getting is, I don't know. Yeah. So we've been getting 60 and 90 days resets to give everybody time to get situated and figure out how we're going to get all discovery. And
let's talk about the judges. How have the judges been handling this?
Well, can I go back for 1 second?
Yeah.
I do have a lot of skepticism whenever I heard the word efficiency, because traditionally what that means is your client pleads now. And that is not the kind of efficiency I want to see. I completely agree that the reset situation in Harris County is out of control. They need to be much longer in general, and there needs to be a lot more people on bond. But whenever I hear the word efficiency, I know that a lot of judges and a lot of people are expecting a sort of efficiency that I have a problem with.
Yeah.
Move it.
Well, yeah, move it along. We got a phone call coming in, so I want to jump over the phone lines real quick. Hello, thanks for calling Reasonable Doubt.
Hey guys, it's Justin. Listen, I wanted to say something that I think it's really important that y'all remind the people watching, and the people who are watching right now remember, is that these judges are making these decisions, and these judges are all elected officials. I have a couple points real quick. JV mentioned something about what the judges are doing. I want y'all to discuss how the judges, some judges have gone from being in court, paid by the taxpayers, 5 days a week, to now being in court 2 days a week, 3 days a week, maybe 1 day over or one afternoon over at the jail docket. They hate and loathe trials because it meant they had to be at their job all day long. And now a lot of them are only going to be there in the mornings or in the afternoon. There are also some judges who have made side deals with each other where they're sharing a courtroom. So one's going to just be there a couple days of the week and cover both courts. The other one's going to be there the other 2 or 3 days of the week and cover both courts. And so that they can both all spend 5 days a week at home or just not working in the courthouse. So remind the viewers that that's a reality. Second thing, something that Ms. Ionescu said about discovery, I was told by a chief prosecutor in a court this week that for the last 2 weeks, the Harris County District Attorney's Office has returned all evidence that they have received from all law enforcement agencies around the state and the county. They just sent it back to the agencies. So not only is it going to take longer for us to get discovery that the DA's office actually has, but stuff that agencies thought they sent is then later going to get returned, get sent back around their office, and then may never get sent back again. So this whole thing is a big mess. Everyone needs to step up. But what the people who are watching and listening need to remember is that those who don't step up and those who don't show reasonableness and compassion in the face of the changes that we're having to look at, they're all elected officials, and we all have an election coming up. We need to remember that.
Good points.
So how are the judges doing? What's up? Before, after, and during?
Well, and I think we should also mention that there was an appointment this week.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday, Kristen Guinea got appointed to the 232nd by Governor Abbott.
It's a quality appointment.
It is a good appointment, and I think bringing somebody like her back, she was the judge, excuse me, in the 179th, got beat in the last election, but now Governor Abbott has put her back on the bench. Having somebody like her on the bench gives me hope that somebody can kind of take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and put some efficiency in this system. I mean, it takes people like her who are willing to do things that no other judges are willing to do. I mean, I've seen her do things that other judges were not willing to do.
But here's the problem. In district courts, the judges have their own fiefdom. I mean, there's their own kingdom. So you can do something that I love and that works perfectly. But if I don't want to do it, I don't have to. And no one can make me do it. The governor can't make me do it. There's no presiding official that can say, you must do it this way. It's up to me to decide if I want to do it or not. I agree with you. This is a perfect opportunity for a more efficient process. And I agree with Nick more than anything that efficiency cannot come at the cost of our clients. And it cannot come at the cost of forcing plea deals or further creating a system that keeps a class of people low and makes a class of people as criminals for no reason. I think this will be embraced by most people, though, as a tool for change, because it has to be. It just can't be the same business as before. It just can't be. We have to take a step forward and move in a way that makes more sense. I don't think we'll have jury trials in Harris County until there's at least 3 or 4 courts that only do jury trials, like 4 impact courts. So, 4 courts that are dedicated just for trials and nothing else. I don't see the space for it. And I agree with a lot of what Justin said. But I also agree that the power to vote in general is just a great power to vote. Whether you should exercise it, period. It shouldn't just be used when you're mad at somebody. It should be used at every election to vote for somebody, period. And so that's just kind of where I'm at on that.
Well, and I think another problem that goes unsaid a lot, and first of all, I love Judge Guinea. I think she really cares about not only the people who are affected by crimes, but by the people who are convicted and sent to prison. And you don't see that a lot. She really cares about what happens to people afterwards. And I wholeheartedly believe that she wants to make the system a better system for everybody. But one problem that every judge has to face is the docket. And if anything is going to happen during this period, it's going to be a bigger docket. And I think a lot of the problems that we see in the justice system are only going to be amplified. They're only going to get worse. There are certainly some room for optimism in certain fronts, but I think having an expanded caseload is just going to make things tougher for the judges who might be inclined to do the right thing.
We have people going to the civil courthouse. We have clients coming to the family courthouse. We have family members looking for their clients in jail when they're going to pop up to the jail. We have a docket issue. What are some things that the judges can do to fix this? What's your opinion?
Well, I think they can do a docket control order like they do in the civil courts and in the family courts. I mean, the civil courthouse, everybody used to joke was empty, okay? Well, that's because people weren't coming over there unless they had to, all right? They come over there because when you file a civil case, you get a docket control order. In county civil court, it gives you a trial date 6 months out initially, okay? In district court, it gives you a trial setting a year out, and it sets all your deadlines. When discovery closes, when you have to have your experts filed by, exchange of exhibits, all that stuff. Imagine if somebody just came up with that kind of idea and did it on the criminal side. If you actually had deadlines that meant something, that prosecutors had to be held to, that defense attorneys had to be held to, that both sides had to do. And if you had a dispute, just like you have in civil court, you can either set it for a hearing You can come down and have a hearing in person, or guess what? Call them on the frickin' phone. Get the judge on the phone and have a telephonic conference. Imagine how much more work a prosecutor could get done, okay, in evaluating cases, actually looking at evidence, figuring out what cases are BS and which are not, if they weren't burning a half a day every day in court on BS.
You're a former prosecutor. What says you?
I 100% agree with you. As a prosecutor, I spend half of my day in court, and you get back
Doing nothing.
doing docket.
But really, I mean,
I agree with you. Yes, I
mean,
I agree with you. And then we get back.
Cases.
Right, we get back, and then we prepare for the next day docket, and there's just not enough time to go through all the cases and look at all the details that should be looked at to be prepared as we should be for the next day's docket. I 100% agree with you. We should just not have settings for 90 days, and we will have to work better, both the defense bar and the prosecutors, and we'll have to communicate and get discovery and figure out what we're going to do. But because we're not going to have the accountability of being in court every month, and so the judges can look at us and ask us what we're doing, but it will be a better system because we're not dragging those people out every month.
And here's the biggest, they want to move cases, right? But you have a prosecutor. The system is set up just in a way that makes it impossible, because either your client is in the holdover cell or your client's sitting in the gallery, right? Okay? So then you, in wide open space, are having a conversation about your client's case in front of 150 different people, okay? You're talking about matters that should really only be discussed either on the phone or in a private office. And then, once you get an offer, you got to go discuss, well, here's the bad parts of your case, here's this, and, they want to move the case today. Well, guess where you get to do that? You either get to do it, if you're lucky, you might get a witness room.
By the water fountain.
Yeah, or you got to tuck yourself in where we used to have these actual things called phones, but those were removed. So there's just, who the hell in their right mind is going to make a life-altering decision under those circumstances? They wonder why our clients don't take deals when it's a today-only offer, like it's a sale at Gallery Furniture. It's just, they're not going to do that.
And part of the problem with that, Jimmy, is the idea that DAs don't usually give a quality offer until that moment.
Right.
Like, they will offer you, I'll give you guys 10 years on this case, and you're like, okay, so 10 years. And then you argue, fight, and then the day of, it's the time served deal. You want it, your client always want it, and he finally gets. I think if we got a realistic offer, and not like when I negotiate, I try to be like, look, just give it to me straight. Like, I don't want to do the song and dance. I don't want to do the whole 5, give you 10, 20, give you 5, I'll plead this right now, whatever. Like, just don't waste my time, because if it's not an offer my client wants, I'm going to tell you right now what he wants or she wants. Or I will tell you, we don't want anything. We're going to trial. And I try to be upfront, because I don't want to waste my time spending all day negotiating, when in reality, if you just tell me straight what you're going to offer, and this be your bottom line, and that truly is your bottom line, and we will go. Like you said earlier, we said it's going to require a complete reworking of how we operate cases.
Yeah.
But it can be done, and it should be done.
Well, but defense attorneys are just as guilty.
Of course.
Okay? Because there are just as many defense attorneys who don't know anything about their client's case. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to negotiate a deal when they don't know the facts. They haven't looked at the offense report. They've maybe read the little summary of the prosecutor's intake report. And, well, here's what it says. I don't know, maybe call some witnesses, go out and confirm, go to the scene, see if it's actually what the cop describes it as. Know your facts before you start trying to negotiate a case. Know what your case is worth,
And I think that goes into a resource issue. I think that's true of prosecutors too. I think especially with people with high caseloads, which is true of a lot of defense lawyers, it's true of a lot of prosecutors, it becomes more of a triage than it does an investigate each case sort of thing. And I'm not saying I agree with that. Obviously, I don't. I think you need to understand at least as much as you can in that particular time frame, so that you can have at each setting at least something being advanced. Mm-hmm. Some interest of that client. You should at least know, these are my goals so that I can get to the next step. But practically speaking, what you see is a lot of people aren't ready for that next step. A lot of people are not ready. Prosecutors, I mean, you can say, watch this video, it's not my client. And you literally sometimes have to, beat them over the head until they watch it. And I understand why. It's because they're playing triage.
Right.
It's a broken system.
Right, how many times have we showed up for court and we asked the prosecutor to follow up on so-and-so and so, and they're like, well, if I have time, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, no, you need to follow up on this. This is stuff that should have been done before the case came to court to begin with. So sometimes we're pulling hairs with them, and not to say anything bad, but we're pulling hairs. And if you have a defense attorney who does not review the offense report, who doesn't look at other pieces of evidence that should have been followed up on, now we have a person that might plead guilty to something that they shouldn't have.
Exactly.
So it's
A perfect storm.
correct.
Not to use a bad analogy in this time, but still.
Right.
So I would say a couple things. One, if you're not being compensated for your time, you're not going to do any work. So asking a defense attorney to go out and spend a bunch of time actually investigating and say, I'm not going to pay you for it, and that just encourages people to not do things, right?
Yeah.
Only a true believer is going to go out there and still do it.
You get what you pay for.
Exactly. And most defense attorneys who do appointment work are okay with getting the pay, they do it, but pay me. You don't tell me you're going to max my out-of-court hours at 3 on a murder case. Well, who can I'll spend 3 hours reading the offense report on a murder case, and the offense reports are this thick. Before I can really get my notes together, 3 hours have gone by. So compensation is one. Two, I would say I agree with everybody, defense attorneys, we have to step up. And I believe most of us will and should. And those who don't, we need to get them. We need to get them. And then, of course, like I said, the previous comment with the DA's office, I've had an occasion where I emailed a prosecutor. I said, watch this video. I gave her the exact timestamp, and it was only 2 minutes. Then I gave her the case law as to why I think it was a bad stop. Then I gave her my argument. And I even put in the email the video. You can't make it easier than that, right? Yeah. And we get to court, and it has not been done. My email hadn't been read. And that was quite frustrating. So I think the part of her problem was she had a policy in place that she has to rip every freaking person, make this kind of weird phone call and do a lot of stuff at every file, which to me isn't necessary. So I don't know, Andrea, but I know you guys have policies in place where you have to do things for cases, just period. Just certain cases require certain types of work, just period. And I think that should be evaluated also. Instead of having to say every assault needs a rip and every blank needs a this and every blank needs a that, so that you pick up a stack of files and you do the same mundane task every one, actually dig into it and see what needs to be done.
Well, there was a time when I was still with the DA's office where paralegals could do rip calls. But then that stopped, and then the DAs had to do all the rip calls, and there's just not enough time.
Right,
when you have 100 cases on the docket, and out of those 100 cases, the 3 has 75 of those cases, there's just not enough time to do everything. So then they show up to court, and they haven't watched the video, they haven't read what they're supposed to be reading, and they don't know anything about the case. How are they going to plead deal when they don't know the details of the case?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's okay.
We're halfway through the program, dude.
It's fast,
Call in,
man.
people. Call in. There's got to be somebody out there. You can't all be watching the Texans game.
Maybe we're winning.
Ain't that good.
Maybe we're winning.
What's the
score?
score?
What's the score?
I don't know. You want me to check? I can check. But no, call in. Tweet us. Call in. Give us your thoughts. So I was thinking the other day as I was sitting around. Remember that article we discussed, Julio? And I think it keeps coming around. I think we discussed it too, Damon, when you were still hosting, about crash the system and set every case for trial.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if we actually all did that right now?
Dude, before Harvey, because all these people have been getting on PR bonds, okay?
Yeah.
So now all my interference, driving while license invalids, trespasses, I think I counted at the end of July, 20 misdemeanor bonds set for the next 2 to 3 months, 20 to 30.
For trial?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we going, boy. We going.
I don't know where you're going to go.
Well, so now let's talk about the DA's office. So now I've been coming to court. I have come to court this week, and I've been getting dismissals.
Yeah, I heard there was a stack.
I've been getting dismissals.
Of a bunch
I mean, granted, I'm handling misdemeanors, okay? Like, I'm handling misdemeanors. I'm getting these dismissals.
But you say it like it's nothing.
They're big, though. They're very important.
Misdemeanor is, to me, like when I first started, it was almost a weight of a felony because it's still my client.
Yep. Yeah,
lightly,
absolutely.
you know what I mean?
100%.
So possession of marijuana license suspension. Most people are like, oh, just possession of marijuana, but that's still, that's still a conviction. I don't want a conviction on my record.
That's absolutely right.
And so I think even a misdemeanor, although we spend a lot of time talking about felony cases because they're more exotic, they're more exciting. I don't discount misdemeanors at all.
Well,
not at all, because
I say it to a degree so I don't get my butt chewed out that like I'm getting dismissals for misdemeanors and then people come down and cram it down your throat like, well, you ain't trying felonies. No, like, okay, misdemeanors are serious business. Assault family members, gun cases, pots, DWIs, in my opinion, they're extraordinarily serious. And so I do it so I don't get killed by other lawyers later on saying that you're talking about
Think
misdemeanors.
about it right now, okay? You get a misdemeanor conviction.
Big deal.
Well,
Problem.
It could be a big deal.
It could be a big
Could
deal.
be a very big
why
deal.
It could be a big deal right now? 125,000 people without their homes. What are you going to need to find? An apartment.
Yep.
Well, guess what?
Yep.
If they don't want to let you rent that apartment because you got some DWI or some DWLI on your record,
Right.
they don't have to.
Assault family
A
members,
job, can't own a gun, can't go
guns.
to the military.
Right.
Yep.
License suspensions.
And
We need to drive.
Yep.
And I think another problem, just when you think about it, is these cases may not have been huge priorities in our criminal justice system to begin with. And we're only now realizing these are something that we can just let go. And I think that's a problem in of itself, is that a lot of things that are not law enforcement priorities are still being punished too harshly, or they're prosecuted too harshly. In a way that's not commensurate with the city of our size and the resources we have. It's just not good economics to spend them this way.
You know what I heard, what I've been hearing, this because we're getting a lot of the misdemeanor cases dismissed, is I have finally heard some of the prosecutors that I knew that, and they never said it to, pre-Harvey, but now they're saying, I got bigger fish to fry than this such and such. I got bigger, and I look at them, yes. Yeah. Yes, you do have bigger fish to fry. Thank you, because this guy is homeless, schizophrenic, and he's on bond now. Before he was before he was in jail. Well, now he's on bond. Dump it.
And it was Judge Guinea, when she was in the 179th, had a case come before her, where it was a defendant who had appointed counsel. I forget what the actual charge was, but the DA's office wanted a fine. And she said, we're not putting a fine on an indigent person.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
We're not, her quote then was, we are not going to finance the criminal justice system on the backs of the poor.
And I think,
and bravo for that.
And to piggyback on what Nick said, what really everybody said, I want prosecutors to focus on felony serious offenses. Mm-hmm. There are people that need to be put in jail. I defend people, and there are people that need to be put in jail. I'm not opposed to that. I will fight for you, and if they do it all right and we don't win, it is what it is. But the fact that prosecutors spend so much time on these driving while license suspended, possession of marijuana, criminal mischief where it wasn't somebody's house. I'm sorry. I had a case where the guy walked across the parking lot of a gas station and got arrested. He spent 4 days in jail. That is a waste of our time. It was a waste of the prosecutor to have to call the store owner to say, was he there? Yeah, he was there. Did he have permission to be there? No. It was a waste of the cop to take him down to the station. It was a waste of my resources. So I'm like, he walked across the doggone parking lot. He didn't even go to a doggone store.
Yeah.
And so, part of the fix is DA economy as far as what charges will be accepted and where they put their time. And I would much rather prosecutors spend their time on murder, ag rob, sexual assault, burglary, violent offenses, felony offenses, things that you have victims that are actual victims, than, just a nuisance to society.
Yeah. I mean, it's the violent criminals that cause you to worry at night.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about the DA's office. Do we see them being receptive to what's going on, and are they changing things? What do y'all think?
I think under the current administration, we're seeing receptive. I don't, by no stretch do I think DA Kim Mong is like a friend to the defense bar, but I think she's receptive to changes that need to be made for economy, DA economy. Does that make sense? She doesn't have a hang 'em high, lock 'em up, let's put everybody in jail, and that's how we fix the world mindset. I think her mindset, from my understanding, has been, look, there are certain cases that are priority, the ones that everybody thinks should be a priority, and then there are certain ones that we need to just kind of work this out and be done with it. And so for that reason, I think she's on board with progressive looking at criminal justice. The issue is just the system that we can't fix.
Were you under the Anderson administration?
Right.
And so did you leave before the Ogg administration came in?
My last week was the week of the election, so yeah. I took
Really?
my notice a couple of weeks before, yes.
Okay, so before and after, have you seen, what are your thoughts? What's your opinions? Do you see any differences in it?
I deal with a lot of misdemeanor cases, so I think that a lot of the prosecutors are still in that very tight, very let's not dismiss cases mentality. There are a few of them that are adjusting. My understanding is that the policy that Kim Ogg wants to implement is let's just get rid of stuff that need to be gotten rid of. But I've seen both situations where they are reasonable and they're not reasonable. I don't see much of a difference, to be honest with you, because I think every prosecutor is still going to do whatever they want to do at the misdemeanor level because it's too far down the ladder for them to even notice.
Do you think the lack of perspective, especially when we're talking about some people who this might be their first job, contributes to some of that in the misdemeanor courts?
You know what I think? I think that it's the lack of leadership at the misdemeanor level. I think that some of those chiefs are not ready to be chiefs. I think that they are not prepared to be training two people under them. I think that when you're a misdemeanor 3 and you're coming in and you're being thrown into a caseload and you don't know anything about it, you don't know the elements of a crime, you don't know what to do to prepare, what kind of evidence you should get, and you have a chief that is not prepared to be a chief, that's not a leader, that doesn't have your back, that's more concerned about sometimes showing you that they're the boss and making you feel like you are not important, then you can't prepare somebody to go up to felony because then you have another group of people that sometimes treat you the way that they treat you. So I think that they should focus more on the misdemeanor chiefs and those people being ready to train the people coming in. Because if you train them well in the beginning, they're going to go up and they're going to be good prosecutors at the felony level. I don't see that right now.
I've always thought it was kind of interesting, and I think in general when you look at lawyers' offices, people are promoted into positions of management and training, not necessarily because they're good trainers or managers or leaders, but because they're good lawyers, and those sort of abilities are not necessarily the same. Somebody could be a very good lawyer, but not a great manager, not a great leader, and vice versa. They could be a great trainer, but maybe not the best presence in the courtroom.
And I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of the chiefs are great attorneys. They're great prosecutors. They're just not, they don't have the leadership skills that they need to train those people coming in. And I think the DA's office should focus more on training them, not how to be prosecutors, but how to be leaders at the time while they're in misdemeanor training those people.
Maybe they need to give everybody a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People.
By Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
a great
Audio book.
Or maybe even have Tony Robbins come down and give a leadership speech.
Speaking of the DA's office, they're displaced. I think we got some at the Galleria. We
I don't
have
think they've
some
actually
at the
moved in
Cotton
yet.
Exchange.
They're not there yet.
They're still working out of their hatchbacks.
I think the Cotton Exchange flooded out. I drove past it on the way here, and it was furniture everywhere.
If you thought it was hard to get them to watch your videos before, wait.
They have no computers.
Zero ribs.
If they got the video in the first place, if that's even like not floating in space in limbo right now.
Wow.
So one thing I want to do is flip this a little bit. We talked about the DA's office a lot. Now for some intra perspective, the defense side. I've seen this before, and I think we rely too much on the DA's investigation to our case. Well, the DA rip call said this, an officer's report said this, and this said that. And it's been my experience that a little bit of investigation and fight on your part has been exponentially better for your client, right? You don't have to have all the answers. It's on us now to step up. Like we should have never relied on the DAs to investigate our cases. We should have never relied on rip calls. We should never look at an offense report as canon, or a rip call as canon, or as MDTs as canon. Those are not there. And now, as a defense bar, this is our moment to step up. We outnumber prosecutors. We outnumber judges. It's more of us than them. A courtroom has 3 prosecutors and 1 judge. In any given moment, 10 to 15 defense attorneys walking around. Right? We have the numbers. We have the equal number of vote. we need to stop relying on them to do our work and do our own work. And I think if we were to take maybe 15, 20% more of a proactive approach to our client representation, we would see at least a 40, 50% return that makes more sense and a better increase in justice. So I don't want to sit here and focus solely on Kim Ong and her administration. It's time for us also to step up and do more.
No, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that part of the things I see is when you go into court, you'll sit there and you're waiting in line in our inefficient communication system that we have set up, where you wait along the rail and wait your turn in line, and you listen to people talk about their case with the prosecutor, and you can tell that neither one of them know anything about the damn case, and just from their conversation, I probably know more or as much of them about a case that I've never even looked at the file.
Yeah.
And they end up both walking away, and nothing has been accomplished in the 10 minutes other than they've wasted my time.
They kicked it down the line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they go down, get a reset
Reset.
form, and kick it to another day when they'll come back and do the same song and dance again.
Yeah.
And
You hear a conversation where both parties say, I don't know. Well, what about this? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
About that. I'm not for sure about this one. Well, how about this? Let's check on that out. Okay, cool. I'll get a reset, and then we'll do this, that. We'll get the evidence. It's like, okay.
And I think that point about a discovery order would be great. I just worry that in our current situation, it's going to be really tough for the courts to enforce that, because they're going to have problems with the DA's office. We're going to have problems with the constables, and even if we send out the subpoenas, and the police department, there's just going to be a lot of unanticipated consequences that we're going to see all at once.
well, but I mean, look, it should be that way. If they aren't in a position, and I'm not, look, a natural disaster obviously kind of suspends some things. And
Actually, legally suspend this stuff in this case.
right, exactly.
Right.
The Supreme Court issued order.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think when we get through kind of this initial haze that we're all in right now of learning a new courthouse and how to walk upstairs and the tricks of the elevators in this courthouse versus the old one where you would go up to go down and down to go up. But my point is that, you got to be able to, as a judge, have the guts, okay, to say, these are my deadlines. And if you as the state can't meet them, if you can't get the discovery in line and get it all exchanged, it doesn't get admitted. I'm sorry, but this is where we're going to go. I'm going to set this on a 6 month or a year for a trial, and here's your deadline. Your deadline is 9 months out, let's say. You have to have all discovery complete 90 days before trial. And if you don't have all the discovery in, you don't get to use it.
But Jimmy, I agree with you on that philosophy.
Because remember, it's the state's burden. If
But
they
that's
wanna bring
hard
the
to do
case.
though in real life, because in
No, it's not.
in civil
It's
you
their
deal with
burden.
money, and so money's important. Hey, money's important. But in criminal, it's hard to tell a prosecutor or really tell a complaining victim, I'm sorry, your case is not gonna get the justice it deserves because the prosecutor forgot to do A, B, C. I'm with you that there should be. I'm not saying
You're trying to find a
that's not-
balance, though,
I agree. I'm just saying, I'm not for bright line tests all the time, but I think I'm just saying it's a hard thing to accomplish when you have sometimes actual victims and you don't want to have a case which should operate a certain way, not because a T wasn't crossed and an I wasn't dotted.
Right, but you've got a client who's, let's say, sitting in custody because he can't make bond. Okay?
Innocent unless and
Bind them out.
until proven.
PR bond,
and
get
that's-
them out of jail.
What says you, Nick?
And I think that all these concerns are very true on both sides, but realistically speaking, there's not a lot of judges that are going to sit there and
willing to
enforce
do
that.
it, exactly.
They would probably be willing to sign that discovery order to put it in place, but when it came to
all-
a murder case, are
all
they
bark
going
and
to
no bite.
dismiss it? Yeah, and
Exactly.
I've seen it. I've been there when you've got the discovery orders and they're signed, and they're like, no, we're going to give them more time, and you, the defense lawyer, have to take the continuance
That's right.
because you're not ready with the evidence they just dumped on you.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
Okay, go.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I actually agree with Damon on the whole discovery issue, because I think what you have going on with the prosecutors, they rotate so much.
That's true,
So
too.
when you have a prosecutor, and especially felony threes that are so overworked, they stay in a spot for 6 months, or sometimes not even that, and then they move to another spot, and then the person coming after them is picking up whatever they left and whatever state that that docket is in, and they have trial on Monday or the following Monday, and you have a couple of days to prepare for a trial that you know nothing about, that you are relying on the person before you to have subpoenaed everybody, motioned everybody, gotten all this discovery, comply with everything, and they didn't.
Tough.
So then, I know,
sorry.
I know, but at the same time, it's not the fault of the prosecutor, and it's a balance. It's finding that balance where it's who do you protect more? Because the victim should be protected in that case too, the same way that the defendant should be protected, because it's not fair. You have one defense attorney on the case who's been on that case from the beginning, who knows everything about the case, who knows all the discovery, but then you have a prosecutor that's coming in the Friday before, that's being thrown into a Monday docket with 5 cases on the trial docket, who is not going to know what's going on.
But again,
I got to disagree with you now a little bit, Andrea. I thank you for having my point. The prosecutor steps to this table with uneven hands. They have more power, they have more ability, and a prosecutor who is lazy, does not do their job, should get no benefit for what I'm talking about.
Oh no, I
feel
agree
sorry
with you
for
on that.
complaining witnesses and victims who have to lose their cases or justice not served for them because of that. But I am not sympathetic towards prosecutors at all. I am sympathetic towards victims. So if a prosecutor has not done their job and you step into his shoes and you're like, that sucks for you, but that's on your office and should not weigh against my client. I'm just saying it's hard to have, to Jimmy's point, a rule that says if something's not in by XYZ time, that it doesn't get in, unless, not including situations where you should have had it in and you just didn't. Not including that. So,
They can always dismiss and refile, though.
yeah.
Right. And I think
That's
a lot
true.
of these problems are baked into the system. I mean, if you look at how few prosecutors we have compared to Chicago, for example, a city that's comparable, they've got 3 times as many prosecutors.
Really?
And they have about a comparable number of cases. It makes no sense that we have so few of them here, and that's part of it. And you look at how few courts we have and how many cases they have. I think all these problems are sort of baked into our system. If you had more prosecutors, with fewer cases, I think the system would function better. And if you had more lawyers who were paid to spend all the time, but we want it on the cheap. We don't want to pay for these things. We just want to put people in prison. That is the mentality of the system. And until we can get away from it and say we're going to think about what we're doing here, and we're going to be careful about what we're doing here, and we're going to make both sides are getting what they need to make sure we get the right answer. But I just don't see the will to do that. You think about all the people who are displaced from their homes and how much money it's going to cost. Do you see that money on the table to give the criminal justice system, say, 3 times the resources?
No, of course not.
No.
No, of course
It's
not.
not there.
And there's something I want to just throw out there, we haven't talked about it. In the last 3 years, we had a problem with Precinct 4 losing evidence. I think Precinct 2 and 8 maybe. We had a flood that hit Houston that was unprecedented. We had flooding everywhere, and I have had nothing about evidence rooms where they secure. And all that kind of stuff. And so I would ask everybody, defense attorneys, be on the lookout for evidence that was in Precinct 4 or wherever this was.
Any constable's office.
Anyone, or HPD, Sheriff's Office, because they've been unusually silent.
PD.
It's
Kingwood.
Yeah, oh,
And you
yeah.
can't tell me they
Bel-Air.
survived.
Yeah.
Maryland,
Yeah.
I think that it's not what my idea. I'm not owning up to it. I'm just saying we should be on the lookout for that, because I'd be surprised if all those agencies with all those evidence rooms survived. And at every major flood event, there was a property room that flooded.
Yeah.
At every major one. And so I'd be surprised if there was not one now. And if there is not one now, either A, they all got lucky, or B, somebody's lying.
I go with the latter.
We shall see. So
You
just be on
got
the
to set
lookout.
your eyes on the evidence. You got to see it. You got to examine it. You got to look at it.
Right. Smell it. Smell it.
Yeah,
If
smell
it
the mold.
If it
There's
smells
a lot
moldy,
of smells going around right now.
yeah, there's a lot of smells. But if it smells bad, then you know you got bad evidence, bro.
Anybody got any crazy stories from the courthouse this week?
You mean besides the judges fighting each other?
Oh, yeah. What's up with that?
Threatening to arrest?
What happened? What happened?
2 judges, tale of 2 cities. 2 judges sharing a courtroom, right? As if judges don't have a nice ego. One judge is sitting on the bench, and another judge walks out and says, "Hey, it's my turn to take over my docket." The judge sitting says, "I'm not done my docket, you have to wait." The judge who's standing to take over says, "I've been a judge longer than you, get up and leave." Judge sitting says, "I'm not going anywhere." And so from their point, it kind of dovetailed to judges fighting over space that doesn't belong to them. It belongs to taxpayers over dockets, and really, who gives a shit? To the point to where they're now threatening to arrest each other for I don't even know what. I have no idea.
In open court, in front of everyone?
Yeah,
Who
in open court.
who gets to enforce the contempt? That's my question.
they
That
each
is a great
decided-
legal question.
Well, I would think the judge sitting, because they're sitting, but they each decided that they were going to
It's both their court.
file charges against each other, and I don't know what the charges would be, but you know, just stupid shit. I mean, that's how the system works.
What gives the authority for one judge to preside over another judge's case files? Is it like a hurricane exemption, or can any district judge sit on any district judge bench and preside?
Generally speaking, the jurisdiction is shared. They're all competent, and that's why you have things like impact court and whatnot that happens. But that being said, yeah, there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes about, you know, a lot of this is just agreement right now, right? So everyone's agreeing this is what we're going to do because there's no other space. This is a horrible situation, and not nearly as bad as the people who are flooding out of their homes, but still, we don't have the space. It's all messed up. And they're just trying to make do with an awful hand of cards.
Have you all heard any rumors of what's going to happen to the CJC, Criminal Justice Center?
All we've heard is rumors.
I've heard a few.
Yeah, share it with them.
So they're gonna, from what I understand,
You got a minute, so hurry
is
up.
they're going to destroy or completely gut the first, second, third, fourth, maybe fifth floors, put escalators in, and put some of the lower, I guess, misdemeanor courts on the lower levels, and then just have elevators to the top floors.
What I heard today was that the budget so far, and it's just rumors, the budget so far is at 110 million, and it would take 120 to tear the building down and rebuild. So they're saying that they might consider doing it because the cost is so close, but it's just a rumor. I don't know how much truth.
My 5-year-old can probably design a building for 109 million that would do better than what the CJC
My
is
7-year-old
now.
could lay it out on Minecraft and probably transfer the design and assist the county.
Yes.
So truth be told, I was told by a high-ranking official they're going to put the CJC on flotation devices and put it in the bayou. So when there floods, it races up and down, and then we don't have no more flooding anymore.
I heard they're going to start
Bayou's right
having.
behind it, so that's legit truth. From
Like
a
they
high-ranking
quake-proof buildings in
official.
California, we're going to flood-proof them where
Just
they
like that.
raise up.
It'll go up and down. So one day you might be on the
flood
4th floor,
waters.
one day you might be on the 12th floor. It all depends on the tide. But that's what's going to happen. That's a high-ranking county official.
So many rumors and innuendos going around.
Well, Scooby-Doo told me. Fine, I just throwing it out there. Finishing up here.
Man, that's all the time we have for this week, guys. Jeez, it's going to be a long road ahead. We got probably at least a year, I think, maybe more. So we'll be back on, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, anybody wants to come on this show, if you're an elected official, if you're a defense attorney, if you want to give us your stories, go to our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, tell us your stories so we can get them out here on the air. For Nick Hughes, Damon Parrish,
Andreea Ionescu.
Andreea Ionescu. Let's get into that.
Despacio.
And
It's
my good friend
Despacito.
Julio Vela.
He said Despacio.
USC sucks.
Oh, we're going to get crushed. We are going to get crushed.
Will you have faith in Tom Herman?
No,
Okay.
not for this week anyway.
That's fair.
That's all the time we have for this week, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week for another edition of Reasonable Doubt. Good night.